God showed me him removed from power on September 23rd, 2025. In that moment, I felt a weight pressing upon my chest, a presence so overwhelming that words almost failed me. I saw it not with my eyes, but with the depths of my spirit, a vision so vivid it left me trembling. The throne that seemed unshakable, the crown that seemed eternal, all of it began to crumble before me. I watched as authority that was thought to be permanent dissolved in a single breath, and I realized how fleeting human power truly is. Every ruler, every leader who walks in pride is fragile before the hand that holds eternity. I felt the fear that grips hearts when the world trembles, the anxiety that whispers, "What will happen next?" Yet in the midst of the vision, I understood something that defies the noise of the world. It was not chaos, it was not chance. It was a reminder, a call to see the truth that all power is borrowed and all thrones are temporary. I saw nations rise in glory and crumble in silence, and I felt the weight of history pressing into the present moment. September 23rd, 2025 is not just a date. It is a moment etched into time, a day marked by divine purpose. Even as fear tried to settle, even as shadows of doubt began to creep in, I felt hope rising like a light in the darkness. Because if God can remove the mighty from their place, he can lift the humble. If he can shatter pride, he can preserve the broken. I saw that even in trembling there is instruction, and even in collapse there is mercy. The vision was heavy, yet it carried a message. The hand of God moves with precision, and nothing can resist it. No army, no palace, no wealth can extend a day beyond what has been appointed. I remembered the stories of old of men who thought themselves invincible and yet were reminded of their smallness. Nebuchadnezzar, Caesar, Pharaoh. Each one exalted in pride, each one humbled in their time. And I understood that the same principle holds today. Thrones rise and fall, but the kingdom of heaven remains unshaken. As I watched, the vision pressed upon my heart that fear is natural, but it must not rule. Anxiety may try to whisper, but faith must speak louder. Every storm, every shaking, is an invitation to see the unseen hand that guides history and to place trust where it cannot be shaken. The moment was intense, almost unbearable, yet every image, every movement of the vision carried clarity. I saw the collapse of authority not as punishment alone, but as revelation. I saw that all human strength, all temporary security is fragile when placed against eternity. And as I witnessed the throne dissolve, I realized that the world clings too often to men, to systems, to promises that will fade. But in the vision, I was reminded there is one foundation that will never fail. There is one power that is eternal. And it is there that our hope must rest, even as September 23 approaches. I felt my heart tremble, yet I also felt resolve. Because if fear is acknowledged but not obeyed, if anxiety is recognized but not allowed to dominate, then a different strength begins to grow. A strength born of seeing beyond the surface, of trusting the unseen, of holding fast to what is eternal. And in that realization, I knew that this vision was not only a warning but also a guide. It was a call to remain steadfast, to lift our eyes above the temporary, and to anchor our hearts in what cannot be moved. As the vision continued, I saw the fragility of every throne of earth. I saw rulers who believed their power would last forever, standing tall in their palaces, yet their crowns were slipping, their authority crumbling like dust in the wind. It was a reminder that no matter how secure a position may seem, no matter how strong a leader appears, all is temporary under the hand that controls eternity. The world clings to illusions of permanence, but God reminds us that all human strength is fleeting. Fear tried to rise again. Thoughts whispered, "What will become of us? How will the world continue?" And I felt those same storms that grip so many hearts. The anxiety, the doubt, the heaviness that makes the soul restless. But I realized in that moment that these feelings, though real, are not meant to conquer us. They are signals, invitations to turn our gaze upward, to lift our eyes beyond the visible chaos, and to see the one whose kingdom cannot be shaken. I saw the hand of God move in the smallest details, in ways unseen by the eyes of men. What seemed impossible, what seemed permanent, began to shift. And I understood that fear and negative feelings are natural companions of uncertainty, but they are not stronger than faith. Every ruler who falls, every crown that fades, every empire that trembles is a demonstration of divine order, not randomness. It is the invisible hand reminding us to trust what cannot fail. I remembered the stories of those who walked before us, men and women who faced despair and doubt yet chose trust. Elijah running into the wilderness after calling down fire, David crying in the caves, Jeremiah weeping over hopelessness. All of them encountered fear, yet they were met by the presence of God. And in that moment, I felt the same truth pressing into my spirit. Fear is not a defeat. It is an invitation to act in faith. I saw that the removal of power is not merely judgment. It is preparation. When thrones are shaken, it is to reveal what truly lasts. When authority collapses, it is to remind us that our hope must not rest on men, on crowns, on governments, or on promises of wealth and safety. These are shadows that fade. But when we place our trust in what is eternal, we are anchored, unshaken by the storms around us. The vision was vivid, almost unbearable in its clarity. I saw leaders stripped of their pride, their plans undone, yet I also saw mercy flowing. For the same hand that removes also restores. The same hand that humbles also lifts. The same hand that shakes also secures. And I felt a deep reassurance the chaos of the world is never outside the control of God. Even when the earth trembles, even when hearts falter, there is guidance, there is order, and there is a future that cannot be taken away. And so, I felt the call to rise above the whispers of fear. I felt the invitation to stand firm, to anchor my heart in what cannot be moved, to trust even when the evidence of the world seems to say otherwise. Because when human thrones fall, when September 23 approaches, we are reminded that our security is not in men, but in the eternal one. Fear may press, anxiety may surround, but there is a peace that comes from seeing the hand of God at work, from knowing that every collapse, every fall, every trembling is part of a greater unfolding. In the vision, I realized that fear and anxiety are not signs of weakness. They are reminders of our humanity. They visit everyone, even the strongest among us. Yet, what we do with these feelings determines our path. When the world trembles, when thrones fall, when powers shift, it is easy to let despair take root. But there is a way to rise above. There is a way to stand firm even in the face of collapse. And it begins with trust. Trust is not a passive hope. It is an active choice. It is lifting your heart above what is seen, declaring that even when human power fails, there is a foundation that will never falter. Trust is prayer that refuses to let fear dominate. It is worship that speaks life over every shadow of despair. It is fasting from distractions that cloud the mind and silence the spirit. It is choosing joy even when the world seems dark. I saw that the first step to overcoming negative feelings is acknowledgement. Do not deny the weight of fear, anxiety, or doubt. See it, name it, bring it before the one who calms storms. In prayer, in quiet reflection, there is a power that begins to replace fear with peace. When you lift your voice in worship, even in silence of the heart, you are declaring that something greater is at work. And faith begins to grow. Then comes declaration. What you speak has authority. Every word of despair strengthens chains, but every word of faith begins to break them. Speak life over yourself, over your family, over the world around you. Declare, I can do all things through the one who strengthens me. Declare, no weapon formed against me shall prosper. Speak these words not as empty phrases, but as lifelines to anchor your spirit in eternity. The vision reminded me that action accompanies faith. Faith is not stillness alone. It moves. It steps into the storm, even when the waves crash. It chooses to pray, to praise, to act with courage. It lifts hands when the heart feels heavy. It reaches out when despair whispers that no one is listening. And with every act of faith, the weight of negative feelings begins to lift, replaced by hope, resilience, and courage. I saw clearly that September 23 is not just a day marked by the removal of a leader. It is a call for each of us to examine where we place our trust. It is a reminder that human power is fleeting, that anxiety and fear are temporary, and that our hope must rest in what is eternal. It is an invitation to rise, to lift our hearts, to declare victory over the shadows that try to claim our peace. And in that moment, I felt a surge of clarity. Every storm has a purpose. Every trembling serves to reveal what endures. Even as the world shakes, even as leaders fall and human plans dissolve, there is a peace that surpasses understanding, a strength that cannot be taken, a hope that cannot be shaken. And I knew that when fear comes, when doubt whispers, when despair presses, the answer is always the same: trust, pray, act, and hold fast. As the vision drew to a close, I felt a profound reminder: the shaking of thrones is not the end. It is the beginning of something greater. Every collapse, every fall, every trembling is a message for hearts to rise above fear. Even when September 23 arrives and the world witnesses the shifting of power, we are called to stand firm, to remain anchored in what cannot be shaken. I saw that the storms within us, the anxiety, the doubt, the heaviness of negative feelings, are not stronger than the one who holds eternity. They may surge like waves, but they do not define us. They may roar in the mind and echo in the heart, but they are powerless against faith alive in action. And in that revelation, I understood that overcoming is not the absence of struggle, it is the choice to rise despite it. The vision pressed upon my heart that hope is not an RV. Hope is courage. Hope is trust anchored in eternity. It is the light that rises in the darkness. It is the hand that reaches through fear and grasps the unseen. When despair tries to speak, hope whispers. When doubt knocks, hope declares. When negativity surrounds, hope stands unwavering. And that hope is rooted not in calendars, not in men, not in thrones, but in the one whose kingdom never ends. I saw that every act of faith strengthens the spirit. Prayer silences fear. Worship breaks chains. Declaration speaks life over despair. Fasting quiets the noise that fuels anxiety. Choosing joy in the midst of darkness fortifies the heart. Each step, each choice, each act of trust builds resilience that no collapse of human power can shake. And in that, there is victory. Even as the weight of the vision pressed, I felt peace, because the one who moves thrones is also the one who sustains hearts. The one who humbles the mighty is the one who lifts the broken. The one who shakes the world is the one who steadies the faithful. And I realized that when the human world trembles, it is not a call to despair. It is a call to see, to trust, to rise, and to embrace the eternal. September 23rd, 2025 is not merely a date. It is a reminder that history belongs to God, that power is temporary, and that hope is eternal. It is a call to stand above fear, to rise above negative feelings, and to anchor the heart in the unshakable. And as I shared this vision, I felt a deep assurance even when human plans fail, even when thrones fall, even when darkness presses, the light of God's purpose shines brighter than ever. So, stand firm. Do not let fear take root. Let faith rise. Let hope breathe. Let trust anchor your soul. And when the world trembles, when the powerful fall, when human authority collapses, you will not be shaken. You will stand resilient, unmovable, rooted in the eternal power that rules above all. Because the one who holds eternity is with you, and nothing, no fear, no doubt, no negative feeling, no fallen throne can ever take that away.